and I'll say it, they had drug dealers in their team that that was their sixth leg to go diamond.
Are you?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, because you need cash. So they would get that cash and buy products. And
Hey, thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Crystal, and this is your first time on my channel. Welcome. If it's not your first time, thank you so much for your continued support. This channel is about my experience when I was at Amway through the AMO called LTD. I share kind of what I've been through in the almost 2 years that I was there and give a bit of a warning and ways I would recruit people while I was in LTD. And today I get to interview a different person who was a different AMO. She was part of Brit Worldwide. Her name is Michelle Garabito. She made it to Q12 Ruby while she was at Amway. She started when she was 17 and was in Amway for quite a long time. She shares everything that she went through, the struggle that it was to actually get to Q12 and all the things that she went through in between. I will say this interview is very interesting. It's very eye-opening, and it even shocked me as I heard some things that I had never heard before from others who had made it to that level in Amway. So go ahead and sit back, enjoy the interview. This is part 1, and I'll come back after the interview for details on part 2. All right. Well, hey, Michelle.
hey, girl.
Thank you so much for joining me. Your video was one of the first videos I came across when I was kind of transitioning out of LTD and Amway, and just the fact that you made it to a bigger pin, the fact that you accomplished so much. I was like, okay, if you make it that far and you're still feeling the same way I felt as like a nobody, things obviously aren't working. So I appreciate you for taking your time out just to talk to us, talk to me. Hearing more about your journey, more your story, and also what you're doing now that you're kind of outside of Amway and everything like that. So introduce yourself, tell us about you.
Awesome. Well, hi, everybody. Thank you so much, Crystal, for having me on. I mean, ever since we connected, we stayed in touch, and I love watching your videos as well. And, the network marketing has a way of making you feel like you're nobody when you're in there, when you don't reach big pins. I told you this when we first met. You are somebody, and just thank God you didn't hit those big pins. And, we'll talk about that in the story. But for those of you guys that have never met me, my name is Michelle Garabito. I'm 30 years old. I was a part of Amway BWW for 10 years. I achieved the level called Q12 Ruby in the business. I had about 6 platinums in one leg, and I had about like a couple other legs, I think maybe 6 or 7 every year, like differed. Some years I had 3 legs, some years I had 6 legs. The most legs I ever had was probably 9. But I had a lot of big leadership in my organization. My upline sponsors, they were diamonds in the business. Obviously not when I got started, but they did achieve the diamond level 7 years in. And so I was very close to seeing them achieve that level. When I got started, I was 17 years old. I was in high school. And I was connected and introduced to the business from a really good friend of mine. We went to elementary school, we went to middle school, and went to high school together. Her little sister was my best friend. And so I trusted her and I looked up to her tremendously. She was actually my poetry slam coach. We used to do musicals together. She was definitely going places. She was on track to be a lawyer. And, coming from the Bronx, living on government assistance, welfare, food stamps, all you can think about, the first thing on my mind was I need to get out of here. I need to develop wealth for my family. And one of the things my mom always told me is surround yourself with successful people. And so this lady, we're going to call her something else because I don't want to say names because, they're very popular still. But my sponsor, the lady that introduced me, we're going to call her Jackie. So Jackie, she introduced me to the business. And so I looked up to her and I was always surrounded by her and everything that you can think of because I knew she was going places. So I was in my senior year of high school. I was completely lost. I had no idea what I was going to do with my life, which if you kind of followed my track record of like elementary, middle school, and high school, all my teachers, all my guidance counselors, they always said like, Michelle's going to be big, like she's going to do great things. And so me not knowing what I wanted to do after high school was kind of like a shock for a lot of people. So I went to an all-girls Catholic school. It's called Aquinas High School in the Bronx. And me and Jackie went to the same high school. She was about 2 years older than me. So I was in musical theater camp when she reached out to me about Amway and BWW. And of course, I was in musical theater camp trying to figure out my way and trying to figure out what I was going to do. So I love theater, I love music, I love acting, I love all that. And so when she reached out to me about a business opportunity that was, the way that she said it was going to help me with my relationship at the time, it was going to help me with my finances, it was going to help me build my own company. I mean, as a 17-year-old high school student who had no idea what she was going to do with her life, you hear that and you're like, girl, where do I sign? Where do I sign up? And and I want to make sure people understand the major keys of this story. Jackie contacted me at a very vulnerable time in my life. I had no idea what I was going to do, right? Like I mentioned, I was kind of lost. I was looking for opportunities. So she really caught me at the right time. So that's major key. So when people think about, oh, how did I get started? Why would I fall into this? Vulnerable times, loneliness, solitude, like feeling lost, feeling ashamed of where you are in your life and seeing these people be successful. Back then, there was no social media like there was now. All I had was the just like our relationship and like her track record and knowing that she was going to be big in life. So when she reached out to me, I was like, hell yeah, girl, like where do I need to go? And she invited me to a meeting at an Italian restaurant in the Bronx. And it was her and a whiteboard, one of those whiteboards that you flip like that. I'm like aging myself. This was like 2009. Okay. She's like doing the flipboard, and there was a ton of people it was a white table in an Italian restaurant. There was a ton of people. There were lawyers there. There were cops there, like people going into like NYPD. There were people going to law school, people on their way to law school. Like obviously that was her friend circle. She was surrounded by really like highly qualified people. And then there was me, a 17-year-old Catholic schoolgirl with my boyfriend at the time. And so she's just explaining the circles, she's drawing out the circles. Back then she's paper, again, that little paper and marker. And I had no idea what she was talking about, but I was just so excited. I was like, all that, she said, you shop, you eat, and you make money. And I was like, what? And then you show friends how to shop, eat, and they make money. And I was like, I know a ton of people. I definitely shop. I know how to eat. And I can make money doing this. Again, this is 2009. You hear that in 2023? You're like, girl, what you smoking? I want to know what you're smoking because I want some of that. Right? So when I saw that, I was like, wow. And then the kicker was she brought in her mentor at the time. And I'm going to say their names because they literally saved my life 2 times in my life. And we're going to talk about that. But their names are Ray and Tamara. And Ray came in and he was dressed in a suit and he was just so enthusiastic and very capturing. And so he explained it a little bit better than Jackie did. And so I got even more excited. So then after, you get the folder, I got the folder. I was so excited. I was reading through it and they invited me to a more bigger event a couple of days later. So I kid you not, Crystal, I took that folder and I ran to my house. I was running. And I told my mom, we're going to be rich. I found the opportunity that's going to help us get rich. And she was like, you crazy. What are you up to now? And she was like, Mom, Jackie, she was the one that showed me, Jackie, she's, she's going to be successful and this is what she's doing. And I remember Jackie saying that this was going to help her pay for law school. This was going to help her, travel. Like, obviously they paint you this dream. And I'm just like, I'm literally shaking at this point. I'm like, I'm ready to go. I go to the big meeting. It was called the Business Building Seminar. It was like 2 hours away. I took 2 trains, 2 buses. I was dressed up in a suit. I was really committed in going. And I saw a ton of people get recognized, go on stage. And I was like, again, theater, right? Stage, music, like recognition. That was like my thing. And I see everybody dressed up in suits. And I will never forget, I was sitting, listening to the speaker, had no idea what the speaker was saying. I was a part of an Indian group. And so the heavy accents and the smells, I mean, all of the above, it was like all up in my face, all up in my face. So I had no idea what was going on. I was just like, yeah. In the back of my mind, I'm like, do I really want to be dressed in a suit and go to business meetings for like however long it takes for me to achieve financial success? Or
Mm-hmm.
do I want to continue to live my crazy life as a 17-year-old and just keep partying and do all the things? And literally this was what's going on in my mind. I was just like contemplating, like, what the hell do I want to do? But after, I was just so excited. Everybody was super nice, right? Everybody's just extremely friendly, and they're giving me perfect water, they're giving me bars, they're giving me excess, they're giving me all these different things. And I'm just overwhelmed with the positivity and the excitement and everything, that I literally chased down Ray. And I was like, you have to meet my mom. Again, I'm a minor, so I can't sign up without my mom's permission.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, 'cause I was 17. I was like, you have to be my mom, and I can literally have a meeting and have 20 people there. Like, can you come and do a meeting for me? And that's exactly what happened. A few days later, Ray came with his pregnant wife all the way from New Jersey to the Bronx. And I had 20 people at my house. It was all my high school friends and their parents. and and Ray comes in and he is showing the business plan, and a lot of people get excited, and some people are like, you're crazy. But then after everybody left, they got their folders, we booked appointments with everyone. After, my Ray was had to talk to my mom about like giving him cash to sign up. That's how I signed up. It was $200 back then to sign up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that got me into Amway, and that got me into BWW. And so I was sponsored by Jackie and her boyfriend at the time. And then Ray was my mentor. He was our upline Q12 at the time as well. And so that night I got started. I got my little, at the back then, it was, you get a binder and like a ton of different things. I got a binder. I felt like a businesswoman, and they gave me a game plan and like all these different things. So I was so excited. And within 12 months, I hit 7,500 points in the business. I was 18 years old. I was a single female. That was a really big deal because I was surrounded by older couples,
Mm-hmm.
like much older, like grown adults with kids, grandkids, like all the things.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a big deal. I did 7,500 points. And the way that we did it was crazy. It was a ton of high school students in my team. I had probably had like 40, 50 people in my team by then. Yeah. And the way that I did it was just like Facebook messaging people. I would do that constantly. They would try to convince me to go to the malls and contact people. But again, me thinking way ahead, I was like, why am I going to go to the mall when I could send 100 messages on Facebook in the comfort of my own home? And they just did not understand how I was doing things. They were like, this girl is weird. Something about this girl. So I just kind of did things my own way. I was sending Facebook messages. Obviously, people trusted me. I would show them the business opportunity myself, or I would invite them to meetings. And that's how I hit 7,500 points. Obviously, I sold a lot of products.
Mm-hmm.
And then a lot of people in my team sold and bought their own products because I didn't have any money. And my mom definitely didn't have any money. Like, we did a lot of product parties. So Jackie and her boyfriend would come over to my house, and my family would be there, and they would do facials and makeup with artistry, and like they will do little demos with the products. And my family, they wanted to support me. So we did like 300 points for myself. And I literally won 7,500 points by having a 4,000 PV leg, a 2,500 PV leg, and a 1,000 PV leg. And I was 18. And so I got recognized, and there was like so many people there, balloons and cake, and so much recognition, that I got so addicted to that recognition. It literally was a self-esteem boost. And I carried that on for a long time. And so I obviously inspired a lot of people. And, this is what kept me in for so long, is because like for the first time in a long time, I felt like I had purpose in my life, you
I
know?
was gonna, I was gonna
Yeah.
ask, because with all the recognition, did you feel famous? And like the fact that you
Yeah.
felt famous, did that make you stay in longer than you think you should have?
Totally. Totally. It was like underground fame. It got to a point where like I would go to conferences and people would fight to take photos of me. They would like follow me to the bathroom. There would be like crowds, huddles, crowds of people, and you would see me in the middle, like talking and like, giving advice like I'm some crazy business lady, you know, like and this is what you do and this is what I did, and like my ego was so big, and like I was literally living a dream. So I always tell people, if you're in your first 2 years of network marketing, you're living the dream. You're like in this high, especially if you're getting recognition and you're hitting those pins, like you are living the dream. I'll give you that. I always tell people, call me after year 8. That's when we can have a good conversation. Okay. But the first 2 years was amazing. And I always tell people it was the best. This is where a little bit of the red flag came about. And like when I look back, was like, damn, why didn't I catch that then? It could have saved me years. But they told me when you go 7,500 points, you make $2,000 to $3,000. I actually made $1,000, like $1,100.
Wow.
And I got the check and I was like, I was supposed to make $2,000. And they're like, yeah, you didn't have the right structure because you didn't sell enough, because you didn't do this enough, because you didn't do this. And I was like, I have the perfect structure. Like, what are you guys talking about? Like, I worked my ass up and y'all told me I was gonna make $2,000 and I'm making $1,100. Like, what is up?
Yeah, exactly.
But right. But because again, I'm so fired up over the recognition. And the thing is, you don't get recognized once. You get recognized the whole year at every event, at every, conference, at every seminar. If you are a new 7,500 points that whole year, in every event, you get recognized. So I was like, okay, well, I'll take my $1,000. I'm grateful. I'm happy. Next month, I guess I know what I have to do to hit it, right? Another big red flag was the next month, I'm at 0 again. Did that ever happen to you? Like obviously it happens to everybody. It's a business plan.
Yeah.
You hit a pin, next month you're at 0. That sunk my heart. I was like, what happened to my points? Where my points at?
Yeah.
And so they're like, oh no, this is business. Like, you got to do it again. And then again, I'm so new because you don't really understand the business plan until you're actually doing the business plan, right? Like,
exactly.
You're doing it. So I'm like, oh, I got to do this again. They're like, yeah, to go platinum, which is the next goal, you have to do it for 6 months out of the year. And 3 of them have to be straight in a row. I was like, I have to do what I just did 5 more times. No, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
But again, I'm blinded by the recognition. I'm blinded by the gaslighting. I'm blinded by so many different things that I kept working it. It didn't happen month 2. I think I fell back for like 3,000 points. Working it. Didn't happen again. Month 3, month 4. It just did not happen until the following year was when I finally went platinum, and that was messy. So messy. I mean, I bought, sold, maxed out credit cards. I used my parents' bill me later account. I used my grandma's money. I stole money. I did all the things that a lot of people have done to be able to hit these pins, because you get so pressured. Like, I was so pressured to hit this level. I would have felt so much guilt and shame if I didn't get these levels, because again, I'm getting recognized and I'm so addicted to that feeling that I'm stressed out about what happens if it just disappears and like everybody thinks that I didn't make it happen. And so also Jackie and her boyfriend, I think at this time they're already engaged, they were extremely pressuring as well. And the funny thing is, they were pressuring me to hit these pins, but they also didn't want me to hit these pins, because if I did and they didn't have the side volume that they needed to make the money and to continue the recognition, they would have looked really bad. So they did whatever they had to do to build their side legs and do whatever they had to do. And as I went platinum, I got a lot of recognition. Around that time, that's actually where I met Paul, who is my boyfriend now. And, we kind of met and waved because he was a platinum at the time as well. And when I went platinum, that was even more recognition and more hype and more everything. Again, I didn't really make, that 2,000 to 3,000. I would make like 1,800, 1,500. But the amount of work that I would put in, I mean, I would like back order products, like, so they can give you the points now and then they'll charge your card later. And then girl, we have to do all the crazy things. Okay. Like craziness. So when I went platinum, more recognition. I got on stage with like the biggest pins, like emeralds and diamonds. And if people were in BWW, they probably remember this talk, like flush the nose to get to the yeses. That was like a really big talk that literally went viral in our terms. Back then was like, that's what basically gave me even more fame. And so I was just so addicted to it. So when I went platinum, I also got a lot of pampering from Amway. You know, I got a $2,500 bonus. They sent me over to Ada, Michigan on an all expense paid trip. They pamper me, they wine and dine me. Again, more gaslighting from the companies and the people and my uplines, and more recognition. But with that leadership also came a lot of like fixing yourself up. So now I had to dress a certain way. I had to talk a certain way. I had to train a certain way. I couldn't wear pantsuits. It had to be dress suits or skirt suits. I had to wear stockings. I had to wear heels. I had to wear artistry makeup every single day. Obviously I have curly hair. My hair is braided now, but I have natural curly hair. I could not have my curls out. I had to straighten my hair. And so for years, my hair was straight. Because my uplines were Indian. So they were like, if you want to be a diamond, you do what the diamonds do. And of course, Indian descent, they have that silky hair. So I would burn my hair.
Ooh, think about the heat damage, girl.
I know the heat damage that I went through, girl. It took me years to regain my curls back. So I had to act a certain way, all that stuff. But I was so in it. I was training. I was having meetings on my own. It came to a point where my team grew so big that we were going to like open meetings where they show the plan. We were going to another team's open meeting, and our team got so big that we had to start our own open meeting. And that meeting it just blew up. It was at Hotel Pennsylvania, right across the street from Madison Square Garden. I heard that hotel just shut down, which is crazy to me. Like there's so much history there. It's kind of crazy. But we had our own meeting. And so we had weekly meetings, like maybe once or twice a month, I would be speaking and showing the plan. And I would always have guests there. I would have the most guests every single week. So I would come in for free, but I was paying $7 every single week to go into those meetings. And then it got so big that we would go to 4 conferences a year. So we would rent coach buses for our team to go to these conferences. And it would be 55 seats per coach bus. And we would have like 2 or 3 of them. And guess who had to start paying for them coach buses ahead of time and then wait for people to pay me back? And girl, it became so financially toxic and overwhelming that it was just too much. It got to a point where it started getting so overwhelmed. But you know, my mentors at the time, now Jackie and her husband, we're going to call him Elmo. Everybody knows him as Elmo now. Okay. Jackie and her husband Elmo, they were not going to stand for, you know, me not being a leader and not doing what they wanted me to do. So they're like, you're a leader, you run those buses, you pay for the buses ahead of time, collect payment later. You know, you write a list of everybody's gonna be in the buses, you make sure people are at hotels. So it became like much more than a business. Like it became so much more than that. So, I mean, I would go on stage, I would do this, I would do that. I would start having leaders get recognized and go platinum. And again, I would continue to feel the pressure to keep moving forward. So it took about another couple years before I went Q12, which is now that's 7,500 points for 12 months straight. Couldn't miss a month. And I don't care what anybody says, anybody that has reached that level knows how mentally exhausting that is, physically draining that is. I was 200 pounds when I was doing that. I was extremely overweight. My skin was deteriorating. I had a team in Virginia. I would drive back and forth from New Jersey to Virginia every weekend, helping my team there. I had a team in Boston. I had a team upstate. I had a team in California. And I'm literally traveling all over the world, not for pleasure, but to build my business and to help people and to just achieve these levels. And again, I would just do crazy things. You know, thank God I lived with my parents because my only bill was my cell phone bill at the time, because all my money was going into products. And then eventually I had to educate my team. So I had to buy CDs. At the time it was CDs, and I would buy 50, 60 CDs, and it was $8.03, I think it was. 50, 60 CDs times $8.03 every single week, plus books, plus the folders, I would be $1,000 every single week just on educational materials. And I would have to write a check to Jackie and Elmo. They would deposit it and me wait for people to pay me back. Sometimes people would not pay me back. So I wrote a lot of bouncy checks at the time. Again, so much financial strain, and it just got extremely, extremely toxic. So then a huge turning point in my business was actually when Jackie and Elmo went emerald. And I was mainly working with Ray and Tamara. They were really like our true mentors. They were like the father and mother figure in our life. They took a ton of high school students and kind of groomed us and showed us how to be professional business people. And they showed us how to dress. They showed us how to speak. And he would come to our home. He would meet our parents. Like they truly was in it for the mentorship of it. But then Jackie and Elmo, they were mainly in it to control and to mainly to control the people in their group. And they were really in it to make a ton of money because they also come from the same background. They were both broke, they were both on welfare, all that stuff. So when Jackie and Elmo went emerald, this is when things started to shift. And this was about 3 years in. And what happened is that they went emerald, and then immediately we no longer are allowed to talk to Ray and Tamara because they surpassed them. So Ray and Tamara were Q12s, Jackie and Elmo were emerald, and they completely surpassed them. So now they're like, you're mine. This group is now mine. You guys talk to us. You guys mentor with us. This couple is no longer, like, you guys are not allowed to talk to them. I didn't find out till later, many years later, and I'll talk about when I escaped because they helped me escape. But they made it seem like they moved to Virginia because that's where they wanted to move. And I remember Ray saying that their dream was to move to Virginia and things like that, but I didn't think it would happen so quickly. All of a sudden, they just moved and we're not allowed to talk to them. So now this business that was surrounded by good mentorship from Ray and Tamara, even though it was extremely stressful, the people is truly what keeps you in. Now I have to answer to this young couple who God knows what they did to go emerald. I mean, they've done the craziest things to go emerald, and now they became extremely overpowering. There was a lot of narcissist traits that came from them, but it was I stayed blind to it because they started to change their life. When they went emerald, they got a $95,000 bonus, and that was like, in 2013, that was like crazy. So like you see people close to you make this type of money, and you literally see them they go from driving a Toyota to driving like an Infinity, from her buying Payless shoes to now buying red bottoms. And I was very close to that transformation. And so although I felt a lot of guilt and a lot of pressure and a lot of personal issues going on, that fame and that success, like, that's what kept me going, and just seeing it so close to me, So I just kept growing, and I went Q12. 2 years later, I went Ruby, and that's when I made my biggest check, which is so funny. Now I look at it and I was like, I can't believe I was excited about $7,000. Like, we make that in a week now. I can't believe that. But back then, I made my first big check, which was about $7,000, and I thought I was rich for life. Like, girl, I mean, granted, it was 2015, so it's probably like a little bit more now. But, that's when I bought my first car, which was a terrible payment. It was a terrible investment. Again, they say that they mentor you, but they really, really don't. Buying a car was the worst thing I ever did. I bought a car, and again, I got bonuses, and I started to qualify for the Achievers trips. So I went to Las Vegas, I went to Disney World. And again, I was just so wrapped up around the recognition again and everything again. And I didn't realize so much that was going on. I was getting so much pressure from these narcissist mentors. I was getting a lot of guilt and shame. I was overweight. I was overeating. And then another big turning point for me, and this is when I started to wake up, was in 2017, Jackie and Elmo were ready to go diamond. And obviously, when you go diamond, your biggest leg is supposed to follow up and go and kind of go emerald at the same time that you're going diamond.
Oh,
And
okay.
so, yeah. And so obviously I was the biggest leg, and he had other legs that were so mean because they always try to be bigger than my team. At this point, this guy like got started way later than me, and he was always trying to attack me and attack my team and try to be better than my team. He would go on stage, and of course, like the upline diamonds will always try to like pick fights and like create this non-friendly competition. And he would be like, who do you want to smoke? Who do you want to beat? And they would be like, Michelle Garabito. We just want to beat her. Like, and of course, I'm sitting in my chair, literally like in tears, because I didn't hit a goal, or I'm not at the level that they want me to be. And they go on stage and was like, yeah, we're here to be Michelle Garabito. We have more people in this conference than her. And I'm in my chair in tears, crying my eyes out. I go to Jackie and Elmo's room, cry in their room, and they're just like letting me, they don't care. They just like, this is great. The more that she can get upset, the more that she can get fired up, the more that she would work. And that's exactly what happened. So
Wow. Okay.
yeah, so when they pulled the trigger to go diamond, the biggest leg has to go emerald. Now my business was not ready to go emerald at all, girl. Like there was no way that business was going to go emerald. So of course, the pressure that I felt from Jackie and Elmo, their upline diamonds, and people from all different walks of life within the industry, they're like, you have to go emeralds. And so I pressured one of my organizations. They were these brothers that they were with me from the beginning. They were like true friends. And they just pushed themselves so hard to hit platinum, and to hit like this level. And I mean, these guys like wiped off their savings accounts. They maxed out credit cards. I mean, they would do the craziest things just to make money, and to buy the products. And it will be 2, 3 in the morning, and I have wads of cash as they're buying products from my house so I can transfer points. And so they finally did it. They hit 7,500 points. I'm in Sapphire qualification. We go inside the room and everybody's talking. It's like a reality show. It's like, oh my gosh, Michelle's in Sapphire qualification. Of course, all the other cross lines are looking at me like, like super nasty and things like that. And so they get recognized. Everybody is so excited, but in the back of my mind, I know what they had to do to go to go platinum. And so the next month comes, and it's like I think it was actually February. The next month comes and it's like February 20th, and they're at like 2,000 PV. There's no way they were going to do 7,500 points. So I told them, I was like, you know what? Like, forget it. Let's just not do this. It's not worth it. Let's just have an organic growth this year. And because they knew, and they would tell me like, be careful with Jackie and Elmo. Be careful. They're really fake. Like the leadership that you're around is very fake. And I will never forget them sitting in my kitchen, just pointing out a lot of the things that I couldn't see at the time. And they would be the ones to tell me like, be careful, be careful. And they fought just for me because of our relationship. But they knew what it would do to their self-image and their self-esteem if they did not continue forward with platinum. So because they didn't hit the second month of qualification, they disappeared, and I never saw them again. Until this day, I have like, we reconnected, I think 3 years ago, but I haven't seen them since that one night at the diner when we were like, I can't do this. And it was so sad because these guys have been with me at this time is like 8 years. And like I introduced him to his now wife and mother of his child. Like, I mean, it's just crazy. So they completely disappeared. Then his brother disappeared. And then it was just came to a point where it was just like, I'm on the phone with Jack and Elmo. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I can't go emerald anymore. I can't believe I'm crying my eyes out, like doing this stuff to them. And they were just like, well, they just had no empathy over all the work that I was putting in. And I just couldn't push people anymore. And I could not do what all these other people were doing. Because now when you go emerald and diamond, you're no longer pushing yourself. Because when I went Q12 and Ruby, I was pushing myself. I did what I had to do to hit these levels. I'm not proud of the things that I had to do, but I did it and I had to do it. But when you go emerald and diamond, now you're pushing people, because now it's legs and at legs, and but that equal people. And so I just did not have what it took to push people. Like, I mean, I pushed people before, and they've gone platinum because they could handle it. But at this point, it was just too much. And so a couple of months later, one of my cross lines ends up going emerald before me, and that destroyed everything. That destroyed my self-esteem. That destroyed my whole life, because Elmo and his wife used that against me. They would say things like, yeah, you think that the people that have been with you the longest will be the ones to step up and go emerald, but it's always the people that you find later on. And I'm like,
It's not even like that.
it's not even like that though. They would play songs like "You Have a Friend in Me" and would bring him up on stage and be like, "This is my real friend because he did what he had to do to go emerald." I'm like, girl, tears, like hyperventilating, depression, like suicidal thoughts, like, should I quit? Should I do this? I mean, for some people that they see it from the outside looking in, they're like, girl, just leave. It was too hard. At this point, I'm too deep in it now, and I have hundreds and hundreds of people under me, and it was just too difficult. So Jackie and Elmo end up going diamond, and I saw what they did to go diamond. It was not pretty. They pushed a lot of people. They had done a lot of illegal things to do what they had to do. They did a lot of shady things.
What?
Yeah, it got to a point where even Amway called them to like verify orders and verify their things. And they had to have like upline diamonds like fight for them to give them the qualification that they are diamonds, or they were not gonna get recognized at the event at the FBD. It got really, really crazy.
Now I'm like, what did they do that was illegal? Because what can you do in Amway that's illegal?
Well, you have to get money to buy products. So, and I'll say it, they had drug dealers in their team that that was their sixth leg to go diamond.
Are you?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Cause you need cash. So they would get that cash and buy products. And of course they had really good credit. So they had their black card that they would charge that card and then transfer points to people in their downline, whoever needed it.
Hey, girl, that is
No.
like okay.
Yeah.
They actually had drug dealers in their organization funding the cash.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, because you need six legs to go diamond. The sixth leg, I actually knew the guy too, because he got started in the business around the time where I got started. And then he got some girl pregnant, left, came back, all of a sudden came back when Jackie and Elmo were gonna go diamond. And it was because he saw him one day out in the streets and literally told him like, yo, I'm going diamond. Like, I'm going diamond. You remember that business? I'm going diamond. He was like, are you serious? He's like, yeah. And I want you to be a part of it. So homeboy came out of nowhere and now is in platinum qualification within 2 or 3 weeks of getting started.
Girl, what?
And at this point, I've been in business 7 years. No, I haven't seen that unless you're doing some dirty things. Yeah. And of course, I knew his background. I knew the type of people he was around. But this couple, they truly did not care. They were going to go diamond whether they had to kill somebody or not. Like, that's the attitude that it takes to hit these big levels in business. And that's why I feel like a lot of people just don't, because the majority of the people have a conscience, and they don't want to do, like, they look at this stuff and they're just like, I'm not going to do that. So most of the people on his team were mostly drug dealers that were just doing the craziest things. And then there was a lady that was there who had a lot of money. And these are the people that they would attract. They would attract people with good credit. So if you can get a good credit card within the next day, $10,000 limit, so you can max out the card, and buy products and hit these levels. They will also attract young people that had good, wealthy families that they can come and do product parties and, use their parents' money. And then they will attract other low quality people, but they would figure out ways, to make this happen. Mm-hmm. And so when all that happened, I'm just looking at this and I'm like, wow. And they would be up night and day, making this happen. And I felt bad for Jackie because it was her dream too, to go diamond. It was her biggest dream, coming from welfare, coming from a very dysfunctional family that she had. You know, she had to do what she had to do. So she would be at product parties, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 product parties in a day. And her husband stays back to mentor men in their team, but he's really playing video games. Yeah, no. Let some dude play video games up in my house. I would I would around. Okay. Like that's I don't play that. That's so ghetto and so immature. He would be playing video games. So homegirl would come home with her bags, and I would see this because I would go to their home to buy products from them for myself. And I would see her come in from product parties and homeboys playing video games. And this would always happen. This is what narcissist men do. They control every woman in their whole life. They control their wife. They control people, whether most narcissists are leaders in some form, whether it's at church or a business. In this case, it was in the business where I saw Elmo be a narcissist to his wife. He was a narcissist to me because I was the closest woman leader in his business. Then he was also a narcissist to his mom. His mom was making 6 figures at her job. And because one year they didn't move on in pin in business, they had to create some type of ruckus for them to get recognition. So then he retires his mom and takes her out of a 6-figure job and moves her into the home that him and his wife just got. It was a rental, but it was a home that they got. And now homegirl is living with him and his wife. And he's making it seem like, yeah, I retired my mom. How is the math mathing? An emerald makes 6 figures. Your mom made 6 figures. So now y'all are 0? Like,
wow.
So of course, it was just another form of control, another form to get recognition, another form to get hype, you know? So anyways, moving forward to the story. So they finally go diamond. As you can imagine, it was very messy. Amway called them multiple times to, kind of like confirm orders because it was just too many orders back to back. And it was just so fishy, a lot of red flags. FED is the main event where you get recognized. Diamonds get recognized. It's like the biggest event of the year in any MAO, like anything. And so they couldn't get recognized until Amway approves their diamond ship. So it's been like a month now, and Amway had not approved their diamond ship. And so they had to get all their upline diamonds involved to call Amway to be able to like get the certificate that they needed for them to go diamond. And this is how fishy it was. Like they were just doing so many things. Because and I've hit big levels. I mean, I've never hit diamond, but once you hit it, you hit it. But when you do fishy things, Amway's on your. You get calls from legal department. You get calls from your rep, because every time you hit platinum, you get a personal rep from Amway. And they kind of check your orders, they check your volume, they check your points, they check your group. Like they're all up in your business just to make sure that you're hitting these pins. So it's a month, 2 months went by, they finally get their thing. And during this time, all these different people, you basically monkey see, monkey do. So this couple went diamond. They had that guy that and his girlfriend that went emerald. They had a ton of people also hit Q12 and platinum. And I was the only person that did not move forward that year. So it was a huge hit to my self-esteem. I was extremely depressed. I was at the event just like crying my eyes out because I was not on stage with everybody. And that's the thing is like this type of business, like they really use recognition as a form of making you feel guilty and making you feel like you're a nobody. Like if you're not on stage, you're a nobody. If you're not hitting pins, you're a nobody. And I truly, truly felt that. And so I remember one of the guys that would be on stage and be like, oh yeah, Michelle, I want to beat Michelle Garabito. Like I want to be bigger than her. So apparently he qualifies Sapphire, but then Amway pulls out his qualification because they found some weird orders, that he did that they were like, nope. So he was not allowed to go on stage to get recognized. And it was just very embarrassing. Again, you get so embarrassed too, like embarrassment, guilt, shame, like it was just really messy. And then this was around the time now where again, Jackie and Elmo would say my name Like it held so much weight, obviously because of my track record and how I've been there since day one and I was hitting these pins. When I did not go emerald, when they went diamond or move forward at all, they started to remove my name from their mouth. They stopped saying my name. They stopped promoting me. They stopped having like giving me accolades and getting me recognition and edification. They stopped doing that. And people started to notice. And so that was a huge hit to my self-esteem. And so around that time, this thing called the process came out, which I think that's how you got started in the business, right? And we had to learn the process. And that was new to us because the way that I got started in the business was you call the list, you make a phone call, you show them the plan, you follow up, you sign them up. Call them, show the plan, follow up, sign up. And that's literally how I got hundreds of people started. There was no process. It was we called it the 4 basics. And that's how I built the business. But even though there was so much recognition and so much growth happening on the outside, on the inside, there was a lot of shit going on. There was no real growth happening. It was a revolving door business. People would get started and quit the next day. There was not a lot of people in the education system because it was expensive. It was like $100 a month or something on like, I mean, even more. Some people would spend $1,000 a week on education. Like it was ridiculous. Slowly but surely, I started to get away from ordering educational materials ahead of time. Another reason why he stopped edifying me because that was a leadership quality or a leadership work ethic that I didn't have anymore. And so when all that happened, he would have a meeting and he did not want to do the process at all. He didn't want anybody to do the process. There were people in qualification to hit pins. And so if you drastically change the way you do business in the middle of like a Q12 qualification or an Emerald qualification, like that's it. So the funny thing is that people in like worldwide dream builders, like Trevor and Lexi Baker, what else? Dean and Marcy Wayland. These were like big names that these were the people that kind of created the process. And they were breaking diamonds like we were breaking platinums. It was like the growth was so insane that actually Jackie and Elmo got so pissed and they didn't want to hear about them. They didn't want to do what they were doing. They were so pissed because they didn't want anybody else to be bigger. They wanted to be the biggest that there was. So they would do a lot of hate. Like Homeboy would have a photo of this couple, like Trevor and Lexi, on his screensaver so he can see them and be like, I'm coming after you. Like this is some psycho shit that we had to deal with. He would get upset when people would come to the meetings and be like, yeah, I had 1,000 people at the conference and he had 700. And he would be crying tears of sadness, like when this shit would happen. So me being intrigued, because again, I was at this point a nobody again. I wasn't getting recognition. My business was not growing. I became very intrigued about the process. So I started to ask for information on how I can study the process. So he gave me a little bit. And of course, I would go online and try to find information. I was getting all the information. So long story short, I learned about the process and I started doing it without his permission.
Oh, wow.
And yeah. And so I was like, wait a minute, with the process, like you can basically live your life, meet people, put them through a 6-week educational process where they actually know what they're getting themselves into, and then sign them up. And then, you kind of take your time and you do a 90-day core run. And this was completely different than the way that I built the business. So I was like excited. I was like, man, I'm going to go to like events and I'm just going to meet people doing it that way. So another thing that I noticed though is I looked at myself in the mirror and I'm 200 pounds. I'm extremely overweight. My skin is broken out like crazy. I lack a lot of self-esteem. And I'm like, I need to start working out and I need to start taking care of myself, because how am I going to attract people and put them through a process? And they're looking at me like, girl, you ugly and you fat and you're not looking right. I was like, no, I have to start taking care of myself. So I hired a fitness trainer and I started going to the gym and I started taking care of myself. Girl, they did not like that. You would think they would be super proud of me. Oh my gosh, Michelle, you look great. No, they took me off the speaking schedule of my own meeting. Okay. And people were like, when is Michelle going to speak? Because I
Yeah.
was everybody's favorite speaker. Some people would show the plan in an hour and a half. I would do it in 30 minutes. Okay. And I would be engaging and I would make it fun and exciting. And I had a great story. So people loved it. And a ton of people would travel from like Boston and Connecticut to come hear my story and to come see me show the plan because they loved it. So they took me off the schedule and people started to notice like, yo, when's Michelle going to show the plan? And so Elmo would be like, my wife is going to show you guys how a real woman shows a plan. Okay, you do that. So, but you know, what a lot of people thought that I was actually like depressed because I mean, think about it. I went from this famous superstar to now sitting in the back of the meeting and nobody wants to talk to me because I'm not growing in the business. And also because Elmo told them you are no longer allowed to talk to Michelle. She's not growing. She's just at the gym and she's not doing what she's supposed to be doing. She started doing the process behind our backs, blah, blah. I was like, the deuces, don't talk to me then. Because I was finally regaining my confidence again without recognition, without the, the hoorah, hoorah, without having the accolades from these humans, Jackie and Elmo. Because to be honest, there comes a point where these uplines become your gods. And that totally happened to me. Like these people truly were my gods. Like I worship them. And I wasn't the only one. All these platinums and people under them, they worship. When they walked into the room, people like would scramble, grab her purse, grab this, and they're just like they're Jesus walking on water. They would use people to like park their car for them and bring them lunch after meetings. And, when we would have night owls, we would go to diners and there would be people that would run to the diner to make sure that their meal came first before anybody else's. They were not allowed to pay for their meals at all. When they went up on stage, everybody had to give a standing ovation. It was like craziness. So they came to a point where these people were my gods and I looked up to them and like I asked them permission for everything before I bought a car, before I bought new clothes, before I went out. Like it was the craziest thing. There was this thing called the 6 cardinal rules. And that was basically what we were to live upon. First thing is always check with your mentor before you do anything for the first time. So before I bought a car, I checked with my mentor. It was a terrible advice that he gave me, but I had to do it. Before I took a trip, before I went to visit my mom, before I buy new clothes, I always had to check with him. No negative upline or downline. So even if I was going through something hard, I was not allowed to talk about it. I was not allowed to mention it. I was not allowed to even show people that I was struggling. I always had to show up, be fake, and pretend like everything is amazing. Life is awesome, is what we call now toxic positivity. Yeah, I was everybody. How are you doing? My aunt died, my parent passed away, my dog died. I'm amazing. How are you? Life is awesome. I'm fired up. What? Right. But in the back, your bank account's negative $2,000. Your car just got repossessed. And this is the shit that would happen to me. My car got repossessed. My mom is sick. My bank account is negative $2,000. And people are like, hi, Michelle, how are you? Girl, I'm fantastic. Yeah, okay. And no negative at all. There's no negative. You're not allowed to watch the news, not allowed to tune into radio, not allowed to listen to music. You can only listen to worship music, Jesus music, so you can get close to God. And you were only allowed to listen to music that BWW sold. Back then, it was a band called Pt.1. They sucked miserably. Only music we were allowed to listen to. No social media. I don't give what they did. I still was on social media. And I have people that follow me on Instagram since then. 10 plus years of people that follow me. I remember when I got Snapchat for the first time and I showed Elmo like, yo, we could use Snapchat to like engage with people and like sign them up. He bugged out on me. He literally had a night owl meeting telling people, if you ever download Snapchat, I will remove you from my team. I will no longer mentor you. Like all these crazy things. Again, I felt guilty because I was the one that told him about it. So craziness. So I forgot what I was getting into that, but the cardinal rules. So these were the rules that we live by. So no negative upline or downline. No messing with people's money. So like if you owe your upline money, you don't pay your rent, you don't pay your cell phone bill, you give that money back. That's it. Like, before you pay your rent, you pay for your ticket to the conference. Before you pay your cell phone bill, you pay the $9 to the meeting. Like, no messing with people's money. And then there was a really interesting one, was no messing with people's egos. Like, don't mess with your upline or your downline's ego. But the funny thing is that they mess with our ego a lot, all the time. So they were allowed to do it to us, but we were not allowed to question them. We were not allowed to question their ego, their integrity, their character. But they were totally always bombarding and just hammering down on our egos all the time. We were not allowed to cross line. So, if I had a friend in another team that I got cool with, we were not allowed to sit next to each other. We were not allowed to talk. We couldn't have their phone numbers. We couldn't have our social medias. We couldn't follow each other. We couldn't do anything, which brings me to me and Paul Nelson. He was a sapphire. Yeah, he was a sapphire in a completely different team, but he would come to my meetings, and he obviously loved me as a speaker. And sometimes he would come speak at our meetings too. And then he also had people on his team come to my meetings. He would drive all the way from Connecticut to these meetings in New York City. It was like 2 hour ride. Yeah. And so one time, we kind of like gave each other the eye, like, ooh, cute. Yeah, like good looking, and of course I knew he liked me from like the jump. So, there was a point where he needed bus seats on my bus because he needed some people for transportation. So I think he asked Elmo, like, hey, do you have space on one of your buses? I just need 4 tickets to go to the conference. And he was like, actually, I think Michelle has space on her bus. So Elmo pulls me to the side and was like, listen, Paul Nelson needs space on your bus. I'm going to give you his number. You're only allowed to talk to him about buses. You're a leader. He's a leader. That's all y'all going to talk about. And if I find out that you guys are talking about anything else, there will be consequences. And I got so scared because I was scared of this God. I was scared of this monster. I truly was. And so Paul and I connected on WhatsApp or whatever it was, and I gave him the bus seats. He paid me, but then we would still talk. We would text, how are you doing? How's this? And we kind of had a thing for each other. Yeah. Long story short, he takes a photo with me, puts it on social media, and Elmo sees it and calls Paul and tell him, you're never allowed to talk to Michelle ever again. And that was the last time Paul and I ever talked, because he was my cross line, and we broke the rule. We were texting, we took photos together, we sat next to each other, and we talked more than just business. And so we broke the rules. And so I'll talk about what happened to me and Paul later, but that was an example of no cross lining. And then I forget what other rules there were, but those were like the main rules. Don't mess with other people's spouses. So like if you and like, let's say me and your husband were like in a room together, like, whoo, it would have been problems. I was not allowed to drive alone with a married man. Obviously that makes sense, but they took to the next level. Like, if there was a guy in a car, I literally had to find another man or another woman to come in the car with me.
Okay.
Like, relax, like, going down the block. It's okay.
Yeah.
No mess with other people's spouses, money, ego, like all that stuff. So these people were truly like, anything that they said or did, they were our God. So that was one of the things there.
I really appreciate you talking about the spiritual implications of being in Amway, because I'm a believer in Jesus Christ and I have a relationship with him. So there were things that I didn't appreciate. And like you said, these people behaved like they were gods. They wanted you to ask them about life-changing decisions. Like, should I take this job? Like, you're not my God. I'm not going to ask about a job, a car, a spouse. I mean, I saw folks get married and I was like, you asked your upline to, like, that can't even fathom asking a person I met through a business if I can marry my husband. Like, how are you going to tell me that? So I appreciate you saying that, because I think that that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this, is because I want nobody is your God. Like, people are not your God. You shouldn't be going to people asking them for permission to do anything. Like, we're grown.
That's right. Oh my God, you're very lucky that you were married, right? Already coming in?
I wasn't. I went in single, but I was also older. I didn't start till I was, 30, maybe
Okay, yeah,
32.
so you know.
So nobody told me nothing. Like nobody,
That's
nobody tried
right,
to tell me nothing. But if I was
that's right.
17, I could see how they
Yeah,
would try to control you, and that's
oh,
ridiculous.
yeah. Yeah, and it's funny that you brought up the marriage part because a lot of people in my team are married to their uplines. And it was kind of like matchmaking. So like the young girl down here in the bottom of the taproot, you know, she's struggling with business, but she has a crush on the upline who's a platinum. So let's like match them up and
Mm-mm.
let them get married. And like within months of knowing each other, they're like engaged and married. And
No way. Ain't no
yeah,
way.
yeah, I remember there was this one girl that we actually got really, really close. I mean, very, very close. And she falls in love with one of her uplines who was one of my downline. And he was going platinum and, you know, all that. So she liked him and stuff like that. It was nothing crazy. But of course, once they find out you like the upline and it's like, it business wise, it benefits everybody, they start to pursue that shit. So they start dating. And then mid like kind of like 6 or 9 months of them dating, she realizes like, I really don't want to be with this guy. Like he got a lot of flaws. Homeboy is a slob, still lives with mommy and daddy. Like, oh, they paint this picture about these platinum men like they are the god saints of them all. No, they are not. Okay. You gotta groom them and move them and you gotta fix them up. So once they broke up, the guilt, the shame, the embarrassment that this poor girl went through because she broke up with a platinum, her upline platinum. And so they were no longer on stage together. They were no longer allowed to do meetings together. And everybody's like, oh shit, what happened? And it was just too much for her. So just for her sanity, she went back to him. He proposed to her months later. Weeks before the wedding, she confesses to me that she does not want to be with him. And they find out that I'm like talking to this girl. They find out that I'm talking to other married women that for some reason they are just dumping all their issues at me because I'm finally working out, feeling good about myself and like doing my own thing. And these poor married women or about to be married women are folding their husband's laundry, like doing all these house duty works because that's how you're supposed to treat your husband. You're supposed to like, you know, I forget, you're supposed to submit to your husband and you're supposed to clean and this is the that like Jackie would mentor these women. And I'm over here telling them like, yo, you better have your own IBO number. You better have your own bank account. You better have your own business and you better do your own thing because you never know. Like these guys, they make it seem like they know what they're doing, that they know how to build companies, but they're all immature. They're all young and they
Mhm.
all don't know how to build. They're just over there thinking that because they do that, that they're going to be diamonds just like him. Like, no. So I'm giving this advice to these married women. Word gets out to Elmo, and all of a sudden, I'm no longer allowed to talk to the married women in my team because I was single. And that was the new rule. If you're a single woman, you're not allowed to hang out with married women anymore. You're not allowed to give them advice. So this girl, we used to text and call and just like, and she was in my team. So I'm allowed to talk to her. She's in my team. All of a sudden she calls me. She was like, Elmo just told me that I can't talk to you. She's in tears. I'm in tears. And because Elmo said we can't talk, we have not talked since. And yeah. And mind you, I went to her wedding. I saw them get married.
Oh,
She
they
did
got
not
married.
I
Oh,
got married and I think she's pregnant now. Like, yeah. And a lot of people got married to their uplines and they were just not happy.
that's insane.
Not another big thing. And again, these are things that I'm sure other people go through that they don't know, or they're in the industry and they don't know. But because I was such a big pin and I saw behind the curtain, I saw too much. Another big thing was homophobia. Elmo was a huge homophobic. Like,
Really?
yes, he hated gay men specifically, lesbians as well, but I didn't have a lot of lesbians in my team. I had a lot of gay men in my team. And so, and I love my gay men. It's probably why I had so many. It's because I attracted all of them because I love them. So I had a gay guy in my team and he was freaking killing it. Like he went platinum, he had a downline platinum, and his second leg went silver. And so he was crushing it. But because he was gay, married to a man, he was not allowed to show the plan. He got recognized and they only gave him 2 minutes to speak. Okay. And he had a booming business. Okay. Like this guy was crushing it. So that's that. They would also train, like, men are not are allowed to sip from a straw. Okay. Yeah. They're not allowed to do that. And one of the gay guys in my team, he was a petite model. And he was very, like, he would get invited to New York Fashion Week. Like, he was up there, and he got started young. But he was kind of messing around with one of the guys on my team. Obviously, Elmo found out, was not having it, and that became a huge, big drama and stress. And then as he started growing, though, he went platinum and silver. Like, he went silver, and then he eventually almost went platinum. And so it got to a point where he was so close to platinum, one of his uplines told him, like, yo, if you don't change your sexuality, you are not going to get mentored by Elmo. And so he kind of freaked out because he was so close to hitting this big leadership pin. So homeboy changes his sexuality and is now engaged to a woman, just so he can get mentorship from Elmo, the god, and his wife. And the funny thing is that the woman that he gets engaged to is some random girl that just came to the United States from I don't know what country, barely knows English, has no friends. The only friends she has is the people in Amway and BWW that are happy, happy, joy, joy, fired up, positive. She's like, I'm in America. This is awesome. And I get a husband. Oh, man. And he's cute. And he got money.
Thanks so much for watching this video. I'm not sure if that was enough shock factor for you, but it definitely shocked me in some areas. Stay tuned for part 2. I'm gonna list that next week. Thank you again for everybody that's been reaching out to me, emailing me, sending me messages, just asking for, things that I've experienced and also wanting to share their story. If you want to email me, my email is below. It's peaceandrelaxation@gmail.com. Email me there if you just, want to vent, if you want to share your story, if you kind of just want some help with maybe someone you met that you think is an Amway, but they're not being forthcoming with the information. And also, if you want to file a claim with the FTC about your experience while you were in LTD, I've linked that below as well. I did that quite a few months ago, and I think they're working on a case on bringing down some of these AMOs. So thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you want to see more interviews and more tips on things to look out for from others who are recruiting people. And again, thank you so much for your support. Have a great day.